Hello, welcome to the lesson titled What an Architect Can Learn from the Nature, or Is the Earth a Testing Laboratory? I'm glad to be able to share with you some of my thoughts and concerns about today's world, our contemporary practices, and possible future in overall building industry. Our world searches and yearns for progress based on an assumption that Earth is an endless source of materials as well as endless dump of byproducts, not realizing the damage we cause to global environment. What we can do today, each one of us in the field of our own interest and specialization, can contribute to improvement of environmental conditions by going back to the nature with respect, not being arrogant because we discovered laws of the nature. When humans invented crop planting and cattle breeding, they mostly settled in the same areas for longer periods, which was the beginning of remodeling natural environment in accordance to their needs. This was the agricultural revolution, after which the continuation of the earth remodeling became more forceful during the time when science developed and when people started torturing nature for her secrets, as Bacon stated. Consequently, what followed was the Industrial Revolution, when machines replaced muscles. Unfortunately, all this was only a prelude for the petrochemical and engineering revolutions that represent the great finale of our Earth and our lives remodeling. Where it led us? It led us right to the point where we are today, in the deep environmental crisis. Namely, by ignoring the natural limits, we started abuse the Earth's resources, which resulted with reduced biodiversity, polluted soil, air, and waters. All this created unhealthy environmental conditions and accordingly impacted human health. The past 2 centuries, the era since the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, were characterized by rapid industrial and population growth. Numerous technological innovations that emerged from science development offered a wide spectrum of new possibilities for architects and other professionals involved in the building processes. However, new opportunities bring new responsibilities as well. Challenged by the capabilities of new materials and techniques, architects and engineers used their creativity and invented building structures that were not anymore dependent on local material sources, local climate, or geomorphologic conditions. Implementation of these new technologies brings in the end uniformity in building styles, dependence on mechanical building supporting systems, inefficient use of energy, as well as the production of waste and pollutants. Lack of experience, as well as the fact that we cannot test a building in a laboratory in applying new building technologies and using new materials, resulted with testing them in vivo, directly on site. In some cases, this resulted in bad indoor air quality in modern buildings, which are named sick buildings, and related health problems are known as sick building syndrome. According to the World Health Organization, more than 30% of new buildings would be sick. Based on systematic measurements, it has been found out that the total concentration of different chemical substances in the air in residential buildings is calculated as amounting to several hundred micrograms per cubic meter of air. In many cases, total concentrations of the same substances in outdoor air at the same site may amount to only tenths of this. This is one of the reasons why the indoor environment is currently considered to be one of the most important health concerns for industrialized nations, especially having in mind that occupants of modern buildings are spending up to 90% of their time indoors. Parallel with the effects on human health and well-being, buildings during their construction and operation processes also affect the global environment. Building material production results in depletion of natural resources, global warming, and overall environmental degradation. According to the World Watch Institute, more than 40% of the world's total energy usage is dedicated to the construction and operation of buildings. The impact that building processes have on environmental degradation and human health is highly significant. But when we find that environmental degradation is in the roots of 40% of all world's deaths, these facts alerted architects, engineers, and other participants in the construction activities to rethink the way they conduct their businesses. So, what one can do? Being an architect, my concern is what and how we can contribute to necessary changes within our contemporary practice. Firstly, we should apply different philosophy to creation of built environments, such as thinking about buildings as flowers that are growing all around the planet in numerous different shapes, even originated from same species. In support of this required change of our business attitude towards nature, statements made by Nobel laureates Mario Molina and Eric Chivian at their representation on global environmental issues at MIT on March 6, 2003 are significant. Molina said, "But if we continue with business as usual, the change will be much greater. We have only one planet. In my own personal opinion, this is certainly enough reasons to do something different." Chivian continued, "People have become so disconnected from the natural world that true nature seems to many like an alien creature to be altered, exploited, or even killed." The concepts of environmentally sound architecture could also be drawn from historical examples. Old builders were solving design and construction problems by accepting local conditions and converting obstacles to advantages. Their buildings were made of local materials, incorporated into adequate structural systems. Buildings' orientation was adapted to maximum usage of sun and shadow. Building ventilation followed wind patterns of the particular geographical region, etc. Vernacular architecture has been losing ground over the last couple of centuries as modern methods prevail. Indeed, according to Hauken and Loins, approaching buildings from a sustainable point of view isn't rocket science. Often it's just rediscovery of good Victorian engineering principles that have been lost because of specialization. Conventional buildings are typically designed by having each design specialist solving building-related problems solely in the domain of her or his specialization. At the end of those numerous parallel and fragmented designing processes, the building design documentation represents a summary of solutions grouped in a single folder. Green builders, in contrast, are insisting on a sort of highly integrative and synergetic design process that melts diverse skills and perspectives into a whole that is greater than the sum of its constituent parts. In short, it calls for a holistic, comprehensive, integrated approach, which fundamental challenge is to understand that all building systems are interdependent. Therefore, if environmentally sound, healthy built environment is a goal, it can only be reached by joint efforts through teamwork based on constant communication. The Green Project teams do not need specialists on sustainability. What they need is shared philosophy and understanding that environmentally sound approach is a complex endeavor that respects natural ecosystems while interfering with built structures. All participants in those processes should seek persistent improvements by sharing knowledge through encouraging communication to link long-term sustainable considerations with ethical responsibility. Only by doing so, the integral relationships between natural processes and human activity will be re-established.